Benevolence, dear mortals, you can call me Whimsical William. Welcome to my channel. Alright, so last week's video was pretty long. I think it was almost 30 minutes. So we're going to keep this one short and sweet. I'm an anime watcher. I'm more of a manga reader. But when it comes to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I am strictly an anime watcher. I've watched parts 1 through 6, and I've also watched Thus Spoke Rohan Kashibe. Now, I'm working on changing that. I decided that once Still Ball Run comes out, which is part 7, I'm going to start just straight up reading all of JoJo. And I have each volume behind me. And these are the newer hardcover versions, but they are paperbacks available for part 3, Stardust Crusaders. I read volume 1 so far, and now I'm working on volume 2. I'm about halfway done with that. And then I'll work on volume 3. Got Dio on the front. Funny thing about these newer editions of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is you have Araki Sensei's new style on the cover work, but when you open up the manga, when you open up to any chapter, any page, any part, it's his old style. This is his first iteration of the popular ongoing series, which is Phantom Blood, which kind of has the coolest name if I really want to think about it. Phantom Blood sounds awesome. I will give you a closer look at Araki Sensei's older style. And this manga and anime have been around for a long time, so I'm not really worried about giving spoilers. But I haven't gotten far enough into the story where I can give you spoilers as far as the manga. But so far, the manga and anime are kind of one for one. Like, I don't really notice many differences besides the art style and maybe a little bit of the dialogue. In the anime, you know, the famous meme, "It was me, Dio." It's a little different in the manga. It might be exactly the same, but I remember like one word being missing and it just hit different. But yeah, let me show you a little bit of this art. See, it's got that glossiness with the matte finish. I love that so much. Here's the spine. It's alright, nothing special. Kind of got the Harley Quinn style going on in the background for the pattern. Yeah, to be honest, I don't have a lot to report. It's not as exciting as the anime, which makes sense because drawing action versus having action moving right in front of you is a difficult thing to do. But I will say I'm enjoying the novelty of Araki's older art style. Like, keep in mind, part 1 and part 2 are like from the 80s. This is like 80s style of art with a heavy influence from Fist of the North Star. So it's really interesting to see those influences. And there's like little mini interviews in the back of each volume. And these are 2-in-1s, so they're technically omnibuses. And also, like, between the chapters, you get like a doodle of Araki, you know, doing certain main characters. And it's really interesting to see how squiggly lines can make the outline of a character, if you will. It's really interesting. Now, some comparisons that I have so far, it's mostly the art and a little bit of the dialogue and just the action. Honestly, it started off kind of boring. And I hate to say that as a big JoJo fan. And Bucciarati being my favorite character and part 5 being my favorite so far. I haven't dug into 7 yet because I've been waiting for it to come out in English. I just want to support the official release. for some reason, like the beginning of the manga wasn't as interesting. And maybe it's because I already know the story, so all the twists and turns don't hit me as hard. Like, I know that Dio is a terrible person who becomes a terrible monster. The animal abuse, the iconic memes. Like, I know everything that's gonna happen before it happens. Like, Joseph Joestar, if you will. I know what your next line is gonna be. I went into this knowing that and still being open-minded, thinking that, all right, it's drawn out versus animated, so it still should hit different. And at first, the first few chapters, I was kind of meh. But right around the time in the story when Dio started losing his fights against Jonathan, and Jonathan started getting bigger, and he started really... I'll tell you exactly when I started getting interested. It was when Jonathan suspected Dio of poisoning his father. He's like, "No, I know you're up to something. We aren't cool like that, and I feel like you're just sus. You're just sus. I don't trust you." So he goes out, and this is all taking place in London. This is when he meets Speedwagon. Speedwagon is a goated character. That was right around the time where I kind of woke up and went, "Oh, this is actually interesting." So I don't really know why it was that part and why it didn't start off hype for me. Maybe it was my subconscious enjoying Speedwagon and enjoying the part where Dio is really starting to get more desperate and to realize that as a human, he can't defeat Jonathan, but he can become more. And Jonathan doesn't know he could become more. And then the father is finally starting to see the lies. I don't know, Jonathan saved his father's life, which was really cool. That's really all I got to report. I'm honestly really excited for part 2 because Joseph is hilarious, and I want to see if there's a difference between the art styles. Like, is it a little bit more detailed? Is it less detailed? Because I'm not going by the animation. The animation kind of did its own thing. David Productions is amazing. They really did their own thing, but it just all worked out. Except, I mean, the first part of part 6 for me didn't look that great, but the later half looked a lot better, so I appreciate it. Part 6 was great, but I think Netflix really dropped the ball with that one. I'm excited to read part 6 because I feel like it's going to be better as a manga. I also feel like part 3 is going to be better as a manga than the anime because Stardust Crusaders dragged on a lot longer than it needed to as an anime. The story could have been condensed, concise, and more potent if certain aspects weren't dragged on. And I feel like part 4 is better as an anime. I don't know yet, I'm guessing. I'll let you know my thoughts. As of right now, part 1 is better as an anime so far. And it's not because Araki's old art style, it's simply because the style of story that he's telling. It's really a mystery, but it's also almost a gothic horror. Like, it gives me elements of Frankenstein or Dracula. It gives me that classic horror vibe. So I really feel like it would hit better animated versus, drawn out art. And I think it would probably hit the hardest as a novel. Like, straight up novel with no images, and I could use my imagination to fill in the gaps. That's a new revelation I never thought to think of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 1 in that manner. But I really feel like it would work well as a novel. Like, not even a light novel, just a straight up novel. Should be really cool. But yeah, those are all my thoughts so far going into it. I'm really excited to read JoJo in its entirety. And then between weeks of me talking about JoJo, I'll probably talk about Cars. Maybe I'll talk about Initial D, because I've really been feeling Initial D lately. Or I might talk about something else random, I don't know. But whatever it is, thank you so much for checking out another video. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I really appreciate that. Once again, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and inch by inch, we are digging into it with our claws, biting with our teeth, really making it happen. So with that being said, peace.